Welcome back to the channel. This channel is devoted to new writers and those writers that are new to pursuing the goal of becoming a published author. We've been going over some software that's budget friendly that you can get for under $30 and does not require an active internet connection while you're using them. All of these softwares are designed to help writers either to help you plan and plot a novel or to keep you organized and focused while you're writing. We've gone over 8 of them in previous versions. They are listed up here. They are Storyweaver 3, CellText, Snowflake Pro, Focus Writer, YWriter 7, WriteWay Pro, New Novelist 3, and FreeWriter. If you're interested in any of those softwares, you can check out the videos previously done for this playlist and find links to those in the descriptions of those videos. Today we're going to add 2 more softwares to this list, and I might not go into detail because both of them have quite a few parts to them, but we will try to cover the most important pieces so you can get a general idea of how they work. The first we're going to look at is called Wavemaker. Now, Wavemaker might at first glance seem to be a browser-based software, and it is in a way, but the browser that it uses is a localized version of a browser. To install it, you do need to have Chrome as your browser whenever you're installing it, but any other ones can work once you have the software installed locally. You can go to wavemaker.co.uk and find more information on the software and download it there. You can also go to the Facebook page, that is Facebook/Wavemaker Cards, and get more information there. Both of those links will also be in the description of the video. The browser that it uses, like I said, is a localized version of your web browser, and the software itself is free. So this software works, and I already have it open. It can work with your Google Drive, so you can port the information pretty easily across different systems. It will run in pretty much any environment where a web browser can run, including Linux and Mac systems, and possibly even on your phone or tablet. To open a previously created project, you can just click on it here because it will be listed at the top. If you want to create a new project, you hit this button to create project. The first step is to give your project a name and to choose a template. Now they do have a few templates, and I'm just going to open this Better Novel Project template because they do have some information there to help you in that particular template. So I'll just create that, and you can see there is an auto sync that you can turn on. This works with Google Drive, and I'm not using that, so I'm going to say no thanks. This template has 21 chapters available, and it provides a place to write on the side here. It also gives you a button here on the right where you can get a distraction-free writing area and a few tools to help you with changing things for bold and italics, as well as turning things into headings if you need to do that, or back to paragraph text. The search is still in beta, so we're not going to show that. The next part of this software has to do with all these cards and methods to plan your novel. The database cards are here. They provide some samples in the template, and you can look at those. They basically are defining the different characters we have. You could use the Snowflake tool where you can take an individual index card and then split it, and then split those cards again and again in the Snowflake method of doing things, if that's something that you're used to. You can use a planning board, and in this case we have a different row of index cards for each of the chapters that is defined. So as we scroll across here, you'll see it's described all the way through to chapter 21, I believe, which is how many chapters we have. If you go to your manuscript, and if I went to chapter 15 and hit this little note button, you'd see those index cards that are listed in the planning board to the right of my text, which could be helpful when you're writing. You can also plan in a grid method by adding your own cards and your own rows and columns of cards, or you can plan using a mind map that allows you to add text and images as you're going. You can also use a timeline tool where you can add cards along a timeline. All of this information is saved in a database type format to use with this program. You also have a little writing area here where you can do self-sprints, where you can choose the number of minutes and number of words you want to write, hit start, and then start writing with your countdown in the top and bottom for seconds and words. You have some export options for your text, and you have here a button to sync to Google Drive. This software is completely free, and as I said, it will pretty much run anywhere a browser will run. So if this software interests you, you can go to wavemaker.co.uk, use your Chrome browser to hit the install option, and you will have this software to use. So we're going to close that out, and now we're going to take the rest of our time to look at Babisco. Now, Babisco is also a software that you can get a version for free. That is the Community Edition. It is limited in features. It's available for Linux, Mac, and Windows. But there is also a Supporters Edition, which they simply ask for a fair price. And their starting price for this fair price comes out to about $20 US. So this is the version that I downloaded and installed. There are quite a few other options here that are not part of the Community Edition, and some of them are fairly interesting and helpful. So you can get this software at Bibisco.com, and it also runs on Windows, Mac, or Linux, just like Wavemaker can run on all of the platforms as well. So I already have Babisco open here, and as you can see, when you start, you just have a little line of buttons. The one on the right is just information about the software. The second here is settings, which in the Supporters Edition allows you to choose a dark theme as well as the classic theme. Choose your default language and the location to store your documents. I'm going to skip the next two buttons and go right over here to open a project. If you already have projects, they will be listed here, and you can just hit the open button to jump into the project. If it's a project you don't need anymore, you can just hit the delete key and say okay, and that's done. For creating a project, you just click, give your project a name, and choose a language. There are quite a few languages here to choose from. But once you pick a language, you need to stay with it for this particular project, which it will give you a warning to that effect here. There is a place where you can read some information about writing a story, just in case you need a few tips to get you started. And then there is a button here that allows you to change the name of your project. Well, I misspelled it. It's supposed to say story. From there, you can start working across the top here with defining the structure of your story in the architecture section. For each of these, you can click on them, say get started, and it gives you an area to write your description of, in this case, the premise. So here would be your premise line. You can save them, and then you get a choice of choosing whether it's completed, not yet completed or to do. In this case, I'm going to say not yet completed, assuming I would come back to it. I can hit the architecture button and there it's yellow to tell me I'm not done yet. The fabula and the setting works the same way as the premise, just providing one description box to explain what you need to about those items. You can also define your narrative strands, perhaps your main plot line, and then maybe we wanted to follow the romance of the story, and we could add a narrative strand for that. Again, they work like the others with just a description area that we could add description to. Moving on across, you can define your characters, locations, and objects. Now, most of these, including the locations and objects and your secondary characters, all work the same way. I'll put in a secondary character here and it simply asks for a name. And when I go into this, I just have a box again for a description. Maybe all I need to know about Bob is he's a clerk. Then you can also define your main characters. And when you define these main characters, you can also give them a lot more information, such as their conflicts, their psychology, their physical features, personal data, behavior, and attitudes. And most of these also have a short list of questions to help you fill out that information. Here you can see the question is listed, and I could give the answer here and step through the questions. So I'm going to go ahead and add another character here, just as a sample. For locations, you can choose nation, state, city, and then give a name of the locations. I will add 2 of them here. And they give you the same thing, just a place for a description. You can also keep track of objects. In this case, maybe a book is really important to the story. Then you can define your chapters. And for each chapter, you can give it a name. And then create scenes within that chapter. Perhaps there was an argument here, and in the same scene, there was also a chase. For each of these scenes, you can go in here and write the scene. So I could write my prose right here. But I also have the ability for these scenes to add tags to the scene. So for this scene, I could identify what point of view was used, such as first person, which character was the viewpoint character, in this case, maybe Fiona, and which characters appeared in the scene, maybe only Fiona and Bob. I could identify where it's located, a store, and the objects that show up, in this case the book, and give it some information here, and even identify which narrative strand this scene belongs to. All that in that one scene. I can also view my scenes and chapters in a timeline version, and after my prose is written, I will have the option to search that for particular items that show up. I can also export things to various formats if I need to, and that is Babisco. It is available at Bibisco.com and is available for Windows, Mac, and Linux. So if any of these softwares are interesting, check out the links in the descriptions. And if this content is interesting to you, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and come back again.